Your second biggest asset, theoretically, is your life insurance policy, should you have one. Your home is your first, and if you don't own a home, then your life insurance policy is your biggest asset. And people do not know that they own their policy like they own their home.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the How to Scale a Business podcast. My name is Hector Santiesteban, and I am your host for today. Our special guest is Mr. Rob Haynie, and he is someone who has spent a lot of time in the building, not only business, but building people, organizations in the life insurance business, and one of the most tenured and successful ones in the space. So, Rob, thanks for hanging out with us today.
Well, thank you for having me, Hector. I appreciate it.
I'm curious for you, you seem to have been great, not at one thing, but you've seemed to have followed a path and really taken it to the umpteenth mile. When you look back on your career, what were some of the big milestones? And then what do you say when people ask you, what do you do today? What's the tough answer for that question?
It's a good question. So really at the beginning, we were kind of in a brand new industry. So, really didn't know where we were going and how we were going to get there. We were younger. We're working for a gentleman. Fortunately, he passed away and his wife took over, but we kind of kept the business going, the idea alive that we were going to educate people about our business. And at the time, most of that was done by cold calling and mailing. The internet really wasn't big yet. And then we had a hiccup in the market in the sense that what we were helping people do at the time, which was sell a life insurance policy, where they were afflicted with a terminal or chronic illness, mainly HIV and AIDS. Around 97, 98, AIDS was cured, more or less. If you took the medicine in a cocktail combination, you could live the rest of your life no different than if you had diabetes and were taking insulin. So we were in survival mode at that time. And during the course of that couple of years, we decided to make a move and kind of break free, blew the company up, if you will, organized in an organized fashion. Some people stayed in Orlando, other people went to South Florida like we did. And we kind of started our own company, which was at the time called Life Settlement Alliance and later on Life Insurance Settlements. And we decided, along with a lot of others, it wasn't just me, I have two great business partners, but we decided that we were going to educate a different type of person. We were going to go into the financial services sector and talk to them about life insurance policies that they had on the books, and could they evaluate those that were getting ready to lapse or surrender and determine if they'd like to look for a life settlement. And that's really how we grew the business. But the key point I'm trying to say is we went from doing a lot of volume to doing hardly any. And then we moved up, did a lot of volume again. Jump ahead to the financial crisis. We saw a hiccup again there. The credit markets froze. It got a little more difficult to buy policies, not necessarily find people to sell them. Certainly in a recessionary climate, people are really getting rid of assets as opposed to buying new ones. But the funny part is that as I sit here today and I look back at the individuals that worked with me back in the 93, 94, 95, the great majority of them are still in our business today. And I think what we all learned together collectively was put your head down, keep going, keep believing in what you're doing, and you'll find your way back to solid ground, if you will. So we had a couple series of those. We had COVID we went through. That taught us a couple different lessons. That taught us that life insurance is in fact a luxury. So when you think about all the financial assets you have side by side, your mortgage, your medical insurance, your car insurance, on and on, at the end of that rainbow, life insurance, that's not really necessary. You don't really have the money to do it. So a lot of people are looking to liquidate that, to use that capital to do other things. Obviously, we climbed out of COVID. And as we sit here today, as I say it again, we have a really weird world we're dealing with right now. So we don't know where we're going. But what we always maintain was people buy life insurance for a series of reasons at the age in which they buy it. Mainly, you think about it's for protection in case the spouse dies, the mortgage gets paid, the kid's college fund continues to get funded, et cetera. But now you're no longer 35, you're 35 years later. Do those reasons exist anymore? And you'll find for most they don't. So the life insurance companies want to tell you that, hey, the only option you have is you can let it lapse or surrender it. They don't tell them that they can do this. And there's a reason they don't. So it's up to us to do it. So I had this conversation with my wife about a week ago. I treat my day and my mission no differently than I did 32 years ago, because I still think we're in a business that's still in its infancy, almost like it hasn't started yet. because the awareness isn't there. So I tell people, what do you do? Well, first of all, we don't sell anything. Nothing to work with me doesn't cost anything unless we find you an offer and then there's a commission that's delivered to us, but you're going to approve that commission. The goal here is just to educate, is to put that in their mind. So get them anywhere. They could be 50 years old right now, which they're not going to be able to sell their life insurance policy, but they have that information in their head. So 20 years from now, they might be in a position where they want to sell their life insurance policy and have that option. And the reason it's important is talk about growing a business and scaling a business. Remember, I work with thousands of financial professionals. And once that settlement takes place, it's usually 6.5 times more than it is if you were to surrender or let it lapse. So if your surrender value was $25,000, give you a good example, when you sold it, it's about 150 on average, roughly. So now that 150 comes back into the possession of the client and the financial advisor who had told the client about this option, they usually give that to the client. They put that to work in something else. Could be an annuity, help fund a long-term care policy, whatever. That's found money. When you're in sales and you're trying to sell them something, which isn't us, but it is them, the first thing you need to do to sell them a life insurance policy or an annuity or a long-term care plan is money. Without money, they're not buying anything. So this money is just sitting out there when we know that our industry buys $4 billion a year in death benefit collectively, right? Roughly. We know that 112 billion of death benefit goes into the garbage every year for people over the age of 65. That's on top of the 4 billion we buy. So when I go back to my example, if I think I'm in a business that hasn't started yet, that proves it. So the goal is to build stuff is just first of all, it's easy to build with people to come in to work for me now because they see I've been doing it for 32 years. They know it works. And we make a great living. We're not sitting in the second row of the presidential inauguration, but we're doing okay. And as long as we continue to get our message out in as many variety of ways, including podcasts, I'm going to continue to do them.
The reason I love having someone like you on the show is that there are so many people who are listening who are not in the life insurance industry who are listening to that, and there's so many parallels that they're relating to, or so many lessons that they can take from that. And without minimizing it too much, I'm curious what sort of business you're in. And when I say that, there's been a lot of people who say, we're not in the X business, we're in the people business, or this isn't a widget business, this is a sales business. If we were to sort of take that frame to your business and your career, what would you say what business are you actually in?
So we are in the life insurance business. That's how I'm licensed. We are obviously a one-off from the life insurance business because we only can sell life insurance policies in our business. That's what we sell. If that makes any sense. So the financial services, sometimes it's clicked in Florida, it's called financial services. Life insurance is underneath that.
But when you wake up in the morning, are you thinking about, and perhaps it is, which I think is an interesting take, and I'd love to dive deeper into sort of your processes. But when you wake up, are you thinking about life insurance, or are you thinking about the people on the team? Are you thinking about, is it a growth, a networking thing? Maybe perhaps the better way to ask this is what really drives the business, or what's the lever that you're constantly pulling the throttle on to move the business forward?
All of the above. I think about everything. That's my problem. And that's a good one to have. I kind of think about, but I think about it, it's education. This is an education process. So I get up every day and think, what can I do to position both myself and my company in a position where if somebody wants to know what a life settlement is, they look to us. So I'll tell you an interesting thing, which I did not know and can take zero credit for, but I'm going to take it as an opportunity to take advantage of. So AI has become pretty big in almost any aspect of life. So especially in life expectancies, there's AI component to that, and which is part of our business. Underwriting, anything related to insurance policies, due diligence. But I also learned that in AI, to get onto, for example, the Google overview, when you click, well, what is a life settlement? There's a Google overview, and it kind of tells you what it is, and it's constantly changing. It gets more and more education, more and more information, right? So through our PR firm that we hired through our association, they said it's hard to be relevant in AI if it's not true. meaning AI is doing the best it can to get credible sources to create content that's believable. They're not getting it from editorial pages of the Wall Street Journal, Washington Post. They're getting it from facts, case studies, court rulings, etc. So I thought about that for a second. I thought about myself and I said, okay, let me ask a question here. Because a lot of people have called me Mr. Life Settlements as a joke, but enough to where a lot of people know that they think of Mr. Life Settlements, think of me. So if you go to Google or any chat GBT, I don't care where you go, Claude, I'm it. You say, who's Mr. Life Settlements? It says me. Now, I didn't do that, but because it's a fact, I'm going to take advantage of it. And that is a way I'm going to help create a platform. So I'm going to have like a parallel program running against my own company, Life Settlements. I'm going to be over here as Mr. Life Settlements. And both nets, if you will, capture results, but people will start to believe it. So what scared me, and also in a good way, was when you go to the AI overview, 85% of the people that go to Google and get that AI overview never leave the overview. They're done. They don't need to go to the sponsored ads. They don't need to go down to the organic. So theoretically thinking, the internet is from a standpoint of trying to get your rankings up and all your words to get into money matter. Problem is there's no way to monetize that top part because no one's paying to get on there. Like I can't pay Google to say, hey, make me Mr. Life Settlements, or hey, make me the best company in the world. So that's become my focus now. I've got another person that knows AI inside and out that's teaching me every day. It's like I'm going to college for this stuff to understand how it works. But I think it's going to be valuable as an educational tool because the more relevant content we can get out there in published surveys, studies, common sense case studies where it's like you can't argue against, well, my client doesn't really need $5 million. They should just surrender it for $12,000. Like that's not an argument you're going to win. Somehow they think that, but they're not. More of that I can get out there into the world, the better off it is. I'm actually writing a book right now, a very small book, which was I give a history of my life in this business, and I've collected over the years all of the different people that have told me all the reasons why it's not a good idea to look into or at least explore the life settlement opportunity, if provided their client has life insurance and they don't want it, they don't need it, or can't afford it. And I've compiled a list of all these great reasons why you shouldn't look into one. And then I turn the page and the list is blank because there isn't a good one. There's not a good one. I mean, I've tried. I've asked you. I've gone in front of thousands of people. Say, give me one reason why you don't think it's a good idea, because you have nothing to lose and everything to gain, right? And here's the thing: some people say, oh, they're going to get a lot more money. Well, you know what? Sometimes they go to us and they find out they get a lot more than they even thought they were going to get. And you know what that does? That makes it real. And they don't sell it. It's now something they're holding on to. It's almost like a savings account. They know their policy's worth this much money should they need it down the road. They don't need it right now because you know how much they're going to get. And that's all we're trying to do is how are you going to in your right mind think that you've done a great job of comparing your options when you don't even know what one of the options is? How? So long way to get there in the question you asked me, but I get up every day and think of new ways to tell the same story in a format or in such a way that's more interesting than yesterday. I don't really change the words. I'm also going from more words to less words. I say my presentations that I get to people have maybe like 6 or 7 slides, if even do slides. It's more or less a give and take, questions and answers, because that's the only way you find out what people really want to know.
Yeah, you mentioned it being an education business, and it seems like you are constantly looking for ways to evolve in which you're doing that, and the mediums and the messaging, and because technology is shifting and changing so much, how you are getting through to people, it seems has to evolve over those times as well. You just probably happened to pick the 3 decades of business that had the quickest amount of transformation. Things are really shifting, but it's cool to see you continuing to learn even to this day.
You have to. You're in the same business, and that's a interesting point. Take a second to tell you. Most of the life insurance agents that have the type of policy holders that we're looking for are older, like me. I'm 60, I'm going to be 62 in June. They're even older than that. They don't even have emails. They don't know how to send a text. There's no sophistication whatsoever. But as we're moving through the time warp, we'll call it, they're fizzling out, and here comes the new. And these tend to be more involved in the internet, more involved in LinkedIn, educating from a LinkedIn perspective. So I want to be ahead of them. I don't want to be playing catch up. I'm sure I will never be as ahead of everyone that like I wish I was, but that's why I have other people on my team. It's not just me for certain that help me make it easier for me. But like I said earlier, and I'll say it again because you obviously do a good job. Or Nikki doesn't give me anybody she doesn't like. That this type of format, in my opinion, is the best format there is because it's evergreen. Meaning my business doesn't change that much over the course of 2 years to where the same thing that happens today is going to happen in 2 years. And when it comes to you, I don't know who your audience is, but I promise you there's somebody there. It doesn't have to be someone who's 75 with a policy. It could be somebody's daughter who's just had a conversation with their mom or dad that I'm getting ready to get out of my house or I need to go to assisted living, whatever it is. And they're looking for money. And many people just don't know that basically your second biggest asset, theoretically, is your life insurance policy, should you have one. Your home is your first. And if you don't own a home, then your life insurance policy is your biggest asset. And people do not know that they own their policy like they own their home. Actually, in 1911 is when our industry started, theoretically. That's when Supreme Court Justice Oliver Wendell said that life insurance has the same real property value as real estate. It's yours. I can give my house to whoever I want. I can give my life insurance policy to whoever I want. But you're never told that. You're never told. It's like you're trapped in it, and the only way out is to go give them back the money. I call that a monopsony, right? So if you and I were buying a commercial real estate building, and for an investment, and we were told that it's $4 million and we own it, and when we want to sell it 5 years from now, 20 years from now, you have to come back to me, who sold you the building. I will tell you what I'm going to give you, and that's it. There's no discussion. There's no like. And the answer is that's what the life insurance companies want from you. They want you to have one way in and one way out. And the reality is you do not have to do it. You can gift your policy to your church, you can gift it to your school, your rescue center in your community. It's yours. You can throw it out. You can quit paying for it. All these different tools are available. But the one thing they won't tell you is about us. And we're regulated by the same Department of Insurance. So the rules are stacked against us.
I would imagine that there are a lot of companies that deal with a a similar issue where it's not even that there's an awareness, there's such a lack of awareness that you're starting from, it seems like even before scratch, right? Like you're not even starting from baseline. Where do you think, or what lessons have you learned in regards to that? Is there certain people, like, is it that you focus on a certain part of the market because they're more receptive to a message like this? Is it that you've tailored your message to impact and land a certain way so that people open or are willing to open their minds to it? What are some things that you've done over the years?
So great question. So one of the things that we've done, so take the RIA world, the broker dealers. We have gone to them and they have literally a fiduciary duty to do what's in the best interest of their client. So by them not doing life settlements, it basically just violates that fiduciary duty. So I don't want to say this is the best thing, but it's pretty close. A broker dealer rolled out life settlements. They approve life settlements for all their reps. They don't have to do an outside business activity. They can just do life settlements. Well, one of their RIAs decided that when he was asked by their client, what's my option? He said, well, you're best off just surrendering the policy. So don't give me quoting the numbers, but it's about 20 grand. So they surrendered it. 2 weeks later, they saw a TV ad that said, you can sell your policy, call us. So they did. And they found out they would have gotten somewhere between 1.2 and 1.4 million. So policy was already gone, had been surrendered, but now enter the E&O coverage. They sued the broker dealer who did nothing wrong because they educated their entire RIA base, but the RIA took it upon himself to not do what was correct. He's gone. He's no longer with them. And they paid the client actually came out better because they got more than the amount of money that they were going to get from quoted from them for damages, et cetera. And the when the broker dealer has a ding on their record, they again didn't do anything wrong. So we use that example a lot because you want to talk about get someone's attention, let them know their E&O coverage is going to, because they got FINRA and all those other fun little organizations that kind of monitor the securities world, and they are SEC, I should say, and they just panic. So they make it more so that they talk about life settlements. They always say things like, "Oh, we never knew about life settlements," and you're like, "Do you take continuing education every 2 years for your insurance license?" Like, yeah. I said, well, then you definitely know about life settlements because they always have 2 to 4 questions in there about it. They're all wrong. Don't get me wrong. Right. They're wrong. They're incorrect. You have to find which of the 4 wrong answers is the closest to right to get it right, but they're in there. So that doesn't work. And it's just easier to repurpose those dollars from a life settlement into another product than it is just to let it go. Some of it could just be lazy. They just don't they feel like they have the time to do it, but they don't have to do anything. They just have to give us the name, fill out the application. We do everything. So it's full circle me. It's constantly, I try to think of what else could I do? And I feel like the only thing I need to be doing is educate because the more I educate, the more deal flow we see.
Well, you've got it's a really well positioned product. It's just you've got a great product or service given all of the things that go into it, and it sort of allows you to focus on educating and helping people and helping them in a valuable way. And I think it's something that when people are looking for the offerings or the services that they can provide, it seems like you've been able to leverage a lot of great systems and things that are in place to really allow you to be that lever and that value add to people that really becomes a no-brainer.
Well, we try and frame it as we try people now to be their back office for settlements. Like we're just literally a hole in the wall that you throw a settlement through, and we push it back out if it gets an offer. We can communicate with the client directly. We can communicate to you to communicate with the client, whatever they want. There's nothing back off. We don't have thousands of deals going on every single day, so it's not like we're so busy we can't do everything. The hardest part in our business, and something I've yet to figure out, and I doubt I ever will, I'm being honest with you, I might give up on this one, is to modernize the customer service at the insurance company. They do not care about speed or service or anything. I don't think it's their fault. It's not the people's fault. I don't fault the people. But I'll give you a weird example. During COVID, now you have to fax things in the insurance company. So I need this for such and such client. You fax it into a fax machine somewhere in the middle of this giant corporation, and somebody takes it to somebody, they fill it out. Okay, that's number one. When you record medical records from a doctor's office, if they have a records company that has all the records, you will have them do a copy service more or less. They'll copy the records, and then they will literally put them in a manila envelope. And if it's too much information, they'll cut both sides out and tape it together, and they'll mail that to you. Okay. Now, New York has a cybersecurity restriction and a due diligence process that you must comply with as a licensee in the state. So everything we get, medical records, insurance information, personal information, is encrypted, uploaded, and then sent to a server that's encrypted on the other end, and they get the stuff in and out. And when we go to, I've actually been in a place where we've testified to this, and I said, you do realize that the records that we encrypt come in the mail from the insurance company. I mean, from the doctor's office. You do know that, right? And we have to fax them too. And then, so I had them all laugh, and I said, so I just want you to know, like, good, you should really, if you really want us to pay attention to that, I can't in good faith tell you that this has had clean custody because it's been in my office in a manila envelope. I take it out, I get rid of it, I shred it, but it is what it is. So that's the world we live in. I said, here's the thing. Here's the difference between a life insurance company for customer service and a life insurance company for sales. If you need to sell something, they will have the state-of-the-art presentation presented to you, sent you an email, zip file, whatever, for you to open up and just play a movie that does everything for you perfectly. Now, go back to customer service. It's call somebody on hold forever. If they need money, They'll fly a drone down a coal mine in West Virginia to swipe your credit card to get the payment. But to get a question answered, they won't. So that's kind of odd, but it's the way it is.
Yeah. Well, I'd imagine that along with those currents come along with some bureaucracy that you run into as well. I've got two more questions for you, Rob. The first is, if people want to get more connected with you, I believe you even have a podcast of your own, or find out more about the upcoming book. Where's the best place for people to go?
Then go to my website, which is www.lisettlements.com. They can call me personally on my cell phone, which is 954-599-4433. And my email, for those who are inclined to do that, it's rob@lisettlements.com.
Amazing. We'll link all that up in the show notes for you listeners, as always. And Rob, my last question for you is, in your opinion, what is the secret to scaling a business?
Surround yourself with people you like to work with, people that have a high degree of energy and ethical standards and a no quit attitude. And when you have a bad day, realize that tomorrow is just around the corner. So don't think about it too long. Move on.